Welcome back, everybody, to the channel, Moving Up with the McClets.
Moving on. Oh, just kidding. I'm used to you being on this side.
Man.
Moving on up.
That does feel hella weird. We're not in our normal seating arrangement
Yes.
so we're trying something different today. Trying something new, and it's different. My name is Joseph.
And I'm Cherie.
And today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons to paying off your mortgage early. If you may be a homeowner and you're in that situation and you're facing that decision, you're going to want to tune into this video.
For us, this is something we are really thinking about, considering our ultimate goal. If you've watched previous videos, we have mentioned that we want to retire when he turns 50.
Yep.
So that is in about 8 years. So we have discussed it and said that we want to have all of our debt clear, as well as the mortgage. So coming up, having the list of what are the pros of paying off our mortgage early or what are the cons, that's just kind of giving us, food for thought and what we want to accomplish for the future.
With what Cherie has mentioned, that is definitely something that we're considering, and we recognize that there are definitely some pros and cons to this decision. And again, some of you might actually be in that similar situation and you're starting to think about what the potential pros and cons may be. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of them. So one pro or benefit to paying off your mortgage early is the fact that now you get to eliminate all debt, assuming all your other debt has been paid off, right? So that could be any other loans that you may have outstanding, credit card debts, credit card loans, anything else that is outstanding in addition to your mortgage, right? And so that is definitely a benefit that I think people need to think about. You can't just go off and pay your mortgage and be like, I'm debt free, when you have other outstanding debts waiting to be paid off. But considering all other debts have been paid off, this is definitely a benefit or a pro.
Number 2 is, along with what Joseph said, it frees up your money once you pay off that big bill that you have. And for most people, the mortgage is their main bill or expense that they pay monthly. So this would definitely free up your money. And that allows you to invest, to save, to travel, to enjoy your retirement without the hassle or of worrying about paying off a mortgage every month. Allows you to provide money to relatives if they need it, or your children, or just helping out because you have that extra money.
Pro number 3 is that now you have less interest on the loan. So as you continue to pay off that mortgage and you're adding more to principal, that interest amount is decreasing each month. And year after year, you're going to see a significant decrease in that interest. So that is a huge benefit, because now instead of a 30-year mortgage payment, you might be able to do it in 20 or 15 or 10.
Yeah. Pro number 4, once again, comes with financial freedom. So freeing up your money, eliminating your debt, that means you got money to spend, right?
Yeah.
So book that 1-month cruise you wanted to take, or go on the excursions that you wanted to go on, take your family on a big trip. So now you have the financial freedom. Hopefully with that, though, you're actually still investing and still, setting aside money for a rainy day. But with that comes the financial freedom.
With that financial freedom that Cherie just mentioned, it's not a free ticket to just go start spending all the money that you have now. Because as you just mentioned, you still want to prepare and plan for the future. So yeah, absolutely enjoy that freedom, but be responsible and start planning by investing either in your own retirement plans, or maybe investing for your children, or you might even be thinking about potentially buying a future property and being able to use that as passive income if you so choose to. So now you have a lot more flexibility with what you can do with the money that you have. And that's really where the financial freedom comes into play. It's not a ticket to just spend money.
Another pro is with what he just mentioned in regards to purchasing another property. Paying off a mortgage actually lowers your debt to income ratio, and the creditors will be more likely to actually provide you to a loan at a lower interest rate. So if you do plan to purchase another property and use the one you just paid off to rent out, make extra passive income, that's a great pro for you.
Yep. And to your point, now if you do purchase a second property, now you have the flexibility in deciding, do you want to stay in your initial property and live there and then rent the second one, or do you want to do the opposite? Do you want to rent out your initial property and then move to your new location, your new property, because there might be some benefits there. But of course, depending on where you move and your situation with taxes and finances and everything else, that's going to be something that you'd have to consider for yourselves.
Another pro that I think with paying off your mortgage is being able to help your kids with college and any costs that may, come along with that. College these days is very expensive, and I actually just heard something today stating that they were increasing college tuition by another 2.5% in California. So being able to have that extra money to be like, okay, yeah, I can cover your books if your child does not have a scholarship, or I can cover your tuition, or whatever the case may be. But at least you have the free money now, basically, that you would have from paying your mortgage. You're able to help your children where need be.
Not to mention that when you combine that with the rate of inflation increasing by 2 to 3%, now you're really looking at a 4% increase on college tuition when you combine it with inflation, right? And what are you going to do in that situation? What are we going to do in that situation? Damn.
Right? And we got 3 of them.
So again, thinking about the future, right? Whether your children decide to go to college or not, depending on whatever the plan may be, do you have the liquidity already there? Do you have the assets in place that can help pay for that in the future? And or can paying off your mortgage provide you with that liquidity to prepare and plan?
Yes. Another pro is once you pay off your mortgage and you decide, I want to purchase another property and move somewhere else. If you rent out the home that you just moved from, renting it out, making that passive income, the only thing you have to worry about is property taxes and homeowners insurance. You no longer have to take half of that and put it towards the mortgage and paying a big bill plus interest. That money comes right to you, profit. And the last pro that we have is not having to pay a bill for up to 30 years. You want to talk about a debt pledge, that would be it. So whether or not you do 15, 20 year, 30 year, not having to pay that bill for that amount of time, that's crazy.
And considering it could be longer if you keep refinancing.
Yes.
Right? So what was a 30-year loan could now be a 45 or 60-year loan if you keep refinancing for different reasons. But we're not your financial advisor, nor are we financial advisors. So we're just providing you with information that can help hopefully make the best decision for yourselves, because that's what we're trying to do for us. Right? Now let's take a look at some cons or drawbacks to paying off your mortgage early. Number 1, you might have a prepayment penalty. You may want to research that based on who your lender is and who you're paying your loan to, and find out, is there a penalty for paying off your mortgage before the 30-year or the 20-year or the 15-year agreement, whatever is your agreement, whatever is the amount of time, because that's something that you're going to have to pay more than likely in cash.
That's almost like a slap in the face for doing something good. Let me go ahead and charge you an extra $2,000 just because you want to pay off this loan that I'm trying to suck all the interest from. And number 2, the second con is no longer having access to the tax deductions for the mortgage interest that you pay. Come tax time, you always enter that interest that you pay, and you're looking at it like, dang, I paid $20,000 in interest. You can recoup a little bit of that during tax season, but once you pay off that mortgage, that's gone.
But again, remember that you cannot live your life every year during tax season hoping and banking on a couple $1,000s to be provided back to you in some sort of a credit, or maybe just some sort of a deduction that you can claim, right? That comes down to financial responsibility and your financial literacy, right? Because at the end of the day, that's not going to save you. Con number 3, or drawback number 3 to paying off your mortgage early, is the fact that now you may still have outstanding loans that you haven't paid off, and now you're making poor financial decisions, right? Again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, if you're trying to get rid of your mortgage payment and you're trying to get rid of that debt because now you want to be financially free or financially independent, and you still have these other debts that could range between $50,000 or $100,000 or more, then you really haven't made a good financial decision. You've now gotten rid of your biggest debt, but also what could have been the biggest asset as well. And so now you're forced to pay off these other debts in which they don't provide any benefit to you. Mm-hmm. So that's something you want to think about as well. Think about what you're paying off first and whether or not that mortgage should be first or last.
Another con, number 4, is less liquidity. So once you pay off that mortgage, you're no longer able to access that equity that you have in your home.
Yeah.
So being able to use that equity to pay off other debt that Joseph was just talking about, or doing home improvements, you no longer have access to that because you can't tap into your asset if you pay off that mortgage.
Or you wouldn't be able to use that equity and potentially buy another property.
Unless you have a lot of funds on hand.
Exactly. And that comes back down to the comment that we've made already, right? This is really dependent on what your plan is for yourselves. This is really dependent on where you are currently and where you want to be in the next 10, 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. And it also is dependent on your financial habits. And so these are all things that are going to play a role, or these are all pieces to the puzzle that is going to help make your decision on whether you choose to do this or not. And con number 5, with you trying to pay off your mortgage early, you're now depleting your cash flow or liquidity to pay into a retirement account or invest into the stock market or invest into some future asset or a current asset for the future, right? You now have less cash flow to do other things with. If you put every cent into paying off your mortgage, now you don't have any money going into what could be an emergency fund. You don't have any money going into a savings account. You don't have any money to go enjoy life with. If you have a family, you can't do things with your family. So again, think about, what does paying off your mortgage early even mean to you? And how can you go about doing it in a way that is not going to deplete your cash flow so that you don't have any money on hand to do other things?
So how do you feel about paying off our mortgage? Are you for it? Are you against it? What are your ideas?
I'm definitely for it. However, I think that going off of everything that we just covered and have been considering for some time now, it really comes down to being able to play that game of balance, right? Being able to have the balance of paying off a mortgage early while still being able to invest into our future, being able to invest into our retirement, being able to invest into our children's future, being able to still enjoy time with our family and do recreational and leisure things with, being able to buy things that we need and put money into savings accounts, right? It's all about balance. So although I don't want to pay a mortgage for 30 years and I would much rather have that reduced to even less, I also recognize that there's a cost benefit to that, right? For every $500 we're putting towards a mortgage, that's $500 less that we could be putting into a savings account or an investment. But again, that all comes down to what we think is going to be beneficial for us, not just right now, but in our near and distant future. How do you feel about paying off our mortgage early?
I am totally for it. I mean, I understand, the cons and not having the access to the equity and not having the access to, the tax deductions, but don't nobody got time to be paying no bill for 30 years. Like 5 years for me for a car is just absurd. So just to think about having to pay a mortgage for 30 years, and understanding what that term actually means, death pledge, like that's legit. And just, for a lot of people, American dream is to own your home. Like, I want us to own our home to where nobody could take it from us, where we have the deed, where we could pass that down to our children. And then if we want to purchase another home, you know, the smaller scale, maybe out of California or the country. And like you said, having that balance. So yeah, we're definitely still investing in our brokerage accounts and our Roths and saving and emergency fund. But, you know, I feel like we also need to put money towards paying off our mortgage and getting that interest down and being able to say, okay, once we retire, I don't want to have, you know, the stress of us still trying to work and do all that and just to pay off a mortgage, you know, because like we said, that's our major expense. So we have about 1.5 years to pay off the other debt that we have, but we are definitely working on that and kicking butt, might I add. So once that's done, then we'll be able to put more towards paying off our mortgage, but also more towards
investment accounts.
Exactly. Investment accounts and our emergency fund and our savings funds and our children's, you know, college. So with paying off bills comes more money. Feel like you got to raise. Like,
it comes back down to having that financial freedom, right? Being able to pay not just any debt, but being able to pay all debt allows you to then diversify your money into areas that you are going to truly benefit from, right? And like you said, it's crazy to think that one of the largest assets can be one of the biggest liabilities, and that is home ownership, the American dream.
So just to recap, there's pros, there's cons in regards to paying off your potential mortgage early, but it all kind of comes down to what's right for you and your family. What's going to be right for you 10 to 15 years down the line. So if you plan on retiring soon, if you don't want any debt, then maybe the next step for you would be to make sure you eliminate that giant mortgage that you might have. Or if you're a person who's more interested in putting all their money towards investing because you want to retire 10 years down the line and having a mortgage is not that big of a deal to you, then maybe you don't pay off your mortgage. But once again, it all comes down to what works for you.
So thank you once again for joining us here on Moving Up with the McClets. We appreciate you watching this video. Please give us a like, ring that notification bell. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel, share the video, share the channel with anybody and everybody that you think can benefit from our content. And as always, we are very grateful that you have spent your time with us whenever you're watching the video. All right? So as we say, keep moving on up.
That's not what we say.
That's not what we say. Keep moving. So as we say, keep moving up with the McClets.